What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NBA to the Galaxy Pod with your host, Scotty Drown, and my co-host here, Slim. You can find Slim on X at RTR30111. You can find myself at Scotty Drown, as I mentioned earlier. Once again, we're back with the NBA to the Galaxy Pod. We're going to get into our top 10 centers in the NBA going into next season. But before we get into that, we got a couple subtopics to get into. Just to keep chopping up this NBA offseason. Obviously, we haven't seen you guys since the USA team won gold. So we're going to break that down and then talk a little bit about some of the remaining free agents that are still out there. And why is that? Why are some of these guys just kind of lingering out there and not getting maybe the opportunity that they're looking for? So we'll talk about all of that. But before we get into that, my man, it is a fine Tuesday. Don't mind me. My days are getting confused out here. I'm getting close to my birthday. That's really the only day that I can keep an eye on. I believe it is Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, though, nonetheless, my man. How you doing?
Yes, sir, man. I'm doing good, man. USA did what they had to do. They went out there and got the goal. So, hey, man, nice to see that. But, yeah, man, overall, I'm doing good, man. Can't complain.
Yeah. No, I feel that, especially on the USA point, right? Because we couldn't afford to see those guys get anything less than gold. That would be completely embarrassing as a country, given the talent that was on that team. But it was interesting, just thinking on the Olympics tip. I've seen a lot of these Noah Lyles interviews. What did you think of him not knowing who Nikola Jokic is? Do you believe that he doesn't know who Nikola Jokic is, the three-time MVP? I might have been mistaken there. Three-time MVP, NBA champion Nikola Jokic.
To be honest, I honestly think it's some type of trolling going on with that statement because,
right?
I mean, it's like I feel like you don't have to be that interested in basketball to know who Nikola Jokic is, bro. Like he's not necessarily just this big, global icon, but he's noticeable though. Like so. He gets discussed like on a regular basis. I feel like so I don't see how you can't just be familiar with his name at least. So yeah, I ain't buying it, bro. I think he lying, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too, man. I feel like he's capping on a lot of the stuff that he's saying. Even some of the NFL players like Tyreek Hill, acting like he doesn't know his name. It's just like, man, like it would be one thing if he didn't live in the United States. It would be one thing if you didn't know those guys if you don't live in the U.S., but he is a U.S. citizen. Obviously, he represents Team USA as well. So it is a little weird. I think the other weird thing, man, is that like they don't like mingle at all, like all being part of Team USA. Like the NBA players don't mingle with Noah Lyles and Sha'Carri Richardson and like all those other people. Like I think that's just a little odd as well, man. But what did you think overall? Let's talk about the actual basketball portion. What were your thoughts on the actual gold medal game? Let me ask you this. Who stood out to you in this gold medal game, specifically from the US side?
No, what is
you like that segue? I set you up, man. I set you up really nice. Go ahead.
You know what it is, bro. Waddell, Stephen Curry, man. I mean, hey, those last, I want to say four shots he hit was crazy. To be more exact, that last shot was just unbelievable, man.
Like, legendary.
I think Bam said it best. Like he was on the bench and he was like, "No way that goes in," but then he had to remind himself that's Steph Curry. Like, truly 1-on-1, there would never be another Steph Curry. So
that's
without a doubt, I had to go with Steph in that game. I mean, things got so bad that I don't know if you heard about this story. What happened with his wife and his kids? After the game, an altercation happened involving Steph Curry newly born baby. I think a fan from the French side may have put their hands on Steph Curry's child or something like that, but that's just how bad that Steph Curry put belt to ass to the Frenchman over there. Like, they was that frustrated. They never seen. Matter of fact, to be like, Anthony Edwards just came out and said that Steph Curry got drug tested, actually, after that performance. So, I mean, yeah, it's only right I go with Steph.
No, I do. I have to agree with you there. That's why I set you up very nicely because there's really only there's maybe two takeaways I guess you could go with in this game. Maybe three at best, maybe a third player that stood out to you. But Steph is the guy that led the way in the semifinal and the gold
Yeah,
medal game
man.
itself, the
Yes.
final. The man was just unconscious from the 3-point line, especially late in the game, saving the U.S.'s ass. And it brings me to another point that I want to ask you about. And this one's tough for me. I'll give you my answer after I get yours, but when you look at like LeBron throughout the Olympic tournament and then Steph Curry throughout the Olympic tournament, and the reason I bring up those two is because to me, those are the clear front runners of Team USA. Those were the guys that led the way. Those are they're the biggest reasons why the Team USA won gold. Do you feel like LeBron should have gotten like the Olympic MVP? I'm not exactly sure what it's called. He got the most valuable player of the Olympic basketball tournament. And I'm interested on your thoughts there with the bias included. Like, obviously, I know you're a Warriors fan. You're going to appreciate Steph a little bit more, but take the bias away. Do you think Steph should have kind of took that award with the two bigger games and the biggest moments of the tournament? Or do you feel like LeBron kind of got what he deserved there, kind of leading the way a little bit more consistently, I guess you could say?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, you can look at it from both ways, but the way I've veered from the most is that I just don't think we win those last two games if Steph don't have the
Yeah,
performance that he had. I mean, if you go back to when we played Serbia, we was down like
close
17, I
to 20.
believe.
Yeah,
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 17 points. So if Steph didn't get it going early, like who's to say things wouldn't have got worse? Not only that, and then you seen the performance he had against France. So to me, like I look at those things and I just be like, man, I don't think we win the end goal without Steph having those elite performances. Now with LeBron on the other hand, like they make a great case for him from a consistent standpoint, like
yeah,
just doing everything, playmaking, rebounding, being the leader, scoring the ball when needed. So I could definitely see his point of like winning MVP. Like I ain't necessarily just mad at that, but if I had to choose, I think I would go with Steph overall, man. Just I mean, his elite shot making, his gravity, like the things he was doing those last two games, man, just ultimately put us over the hump to win. So
yeah.
yeah, I gotta go with Steph on
No,
that for sure.
I think I think those are all valid points. You made valid points for both sides there. Um, it is tough. It's a really tough discussion, and I
It
almost
is.
feel like the answer doesn't really matter. But it is fun to talk about nonetheless because Steph has the two big games, the two biggest games of the tournament, and you're right. They don't win those games if Steph doesn't become unconscious from the 3-point line. Even that last shot that he hit with like two or three guys trying to get a hand in his face.
Right.
Um, he hits that shot. They needed that shot to win the game. Like that wasn't just like a throwaway trick shot to end the game. Steph's on fire, a heat check. That's him like basically sealing the game for Team USA.
Yeah.
So it was a much needed bucket. Then you look at LeBron, though, it's like each game he's coming away with like 10 assists, close to 10 rebounds. He had a triple double in certain games. So
Yeah.
it was really tough to kind of decide between the two. I ultimately think I would have went with Steph just because the importance, the moments in the postseason. Like, not to like downplay LeBron, but I'm not going to remember really the triple double, in like
Yeah, I
maybe
feel that.
three
Yeah.
games back, right? Like
Right.
I'm going to remember Steph going off in the silver or in the
Yeah.
semifinal game and then the gold medal game. So yeah,
Yeah. Here come
Martian, you
Marshall.
gonna
Here
hate
come
me.
this guy,
You
bro.
gonna hate me.
But yeah, I feel
I thought he was a Sixers fan. He's talking about AD number two.
right.
Golly, what
Wow.
we gonna see?
I mean, I feel exactly what you're saying though, but like on my end, like one last thing I say about this is that I gotta give a
Yeah,
huge shout out to one specific guy on Team USA. Like, like you talking like if he can do it, like I know anybody else in the league, they put their mind to it that they can do it too. I gotta give a shout out to Bam, Drew, AD. All those guys was elite. They was phenomenal in their roles. But if it's one guy who just like caught my attention and it just stood out the most, it's just Devin Booker. Like the way he took the challenge to go out there and just be a
yeah,
star in his role. He wasn't pouting about getting certain touches that he accustomed to. He was going out there defending his tail off, playing off and on the ball, just being a good overall team player, doing what's
Yeah.
best for the team. And he made a post on X last season. Kyle Kuzma had made a post and was like, "We need guys to do this and do that," and he was like, "He'll do it." And he's a man of his word. He went out there and did exactly what the team needed. So shout out to
Yeah.
D Book, a huge. He was the X factor in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with that point. I think that is the third guy that I was thinking of when I said, two, maybe three players that were really noticeable or notable
Yeah,
out of this tournament for Team USA. And it was just Devin Booker's willingness, like you said, to just do the nitty gritty, to be that spot up 3-point shooter, to defend, to go games without getting the normal touches that he gets, as a superstar in the NBA. I thought he really took the role player, just exactly what you brought up with the tweet from Kuzma, right? Like he really stood up and became that role player that the team was kind of missing in a sense, right? Like that's something that guys like Ant Edwards, Jason Tatum's, there's a lot of talk about him, the Tyrese Halliburton's, they're going to have to figure out how to do that going forward, being part of Team USA now. And Edwards, those guys, they'll be the face of Team USA next time. So maybe they don't have to step into like a role player role as much as Devin Booker did. But I do agree. I think that's a great point. Aside from him, off the top of my head, I won't lie to you, the first name that comes to mind for me is Bam Adebayo. I'm taking Joel Embiid out of my mind. Obviously, I love that Embiid got the gold medal. Love that Embiid was part of the journey, but Embiid had the big game against Serbia. He was a big reason why, along with Steph, why they were able to come back in that game. Steph being the main driving force there, but Bam Adebayo is the guy that comes to mind for me. His versatility, once again the willingness to do anything for the team. You talk about fitting in as a role player. It's kind of what he is, but he's just so good within the role that it makes him into an all-star. Do you know what I mean? Like the things that he does, like he rebounds well, he defends well, he can get you a bucket, but he's not your go-to guy. He's like I don't want to call him a glorified role player because he is better than that. He's an all-star. He is a star. But he was the other guy that kind of stood out to me for Team USA throughout the tournament as well, man.
Yeah, I feel that. Shout out to my guy Bam, man. So yeah, I feel that.
Martian is bugging out here, brother. Bugging. I will say this, Bam, like in an all-star setting, if he has like multiple stars on a team, Bam is the better player to have on the team. But if you need your team to be centered around a player, Embiid's the better player.
And even like AD too, bro. Like his defense, bro. Like
yeah. He was right there. He was right there. I guess from AD, I guess maybe I expected it a little bit more from him rather than Bam, but both were very impressive.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get your touches when you got Kevin Durant and Anthony Edwards both coming off the bench. So
exactly, and that's part of the reason I feel like Bam, AD, a little bit better fit than Joel Embiid for Team USA because Joel Embiid needs the ball in his hands to be impactful, right? He needs to be the go-to guy. Whereas Bam, AD, they can get their stuff off the glass. They can get putbacks, rebounds, and they're cool with doing that all game. So it is an interesting perspective as we lead into the top 10 centers talk. But before we get into that, but don't get too eager there, Martha. But looking at some of the remaining free agents, I do want to switch into that topic. You do have Gershon Yabusele that did sign with the Philadelphia 76ers after the Olympics. He showed out there. He looked really well, averaged 14 points, like 3 rebounds, shot 50% from the field, so on and so forth. Had the dunk on LeBron, right? So the Sixers go out, sign him to basically a minimum contract. He comes back into the NBA. But it points me kind of back to something that you mentioned to me leading into this show and some of the remaining free agents that are still out there. I'll throw it to you here because you mentioned it to me. Who are some of the guys that you're confused why they aren't on a team yet? Like, why haven't they been signed? Who are some of the guys that come to your mind in that sense?
Well, if it's two names that comes off the top of my head that I can think of right now, And number one, that's Lonnie Walker, man. Like, I don't see how a guy that young and that explosive is still out there on the market right now. Like, there are so many from both sides, contending teams and rebuilding teams that could use a guy like that. I mean, what do you have
I
to
agree.
lose? I mean, his market is not necessarily expensive. I feel like at this point, I'm sure he'll take a minimum and be, just fine to just,
You would
go out
think,
there and
yeah.
go out there for a whole season and try to get paid next summer. But yeah, man, I'm kind of confused on that because I thought Landon Walker was pretty solid for the Nets last season. But him and then another guy, Dennis Smith Jr.,
Yeah.
a guy that was drafted in the lottery, had some moments in his career. Played for Dallas, New York. I think he had his best stretch in the NBA when he was with the Hornets. These past couple seasons, I
Yeah.
tuned to a couple of their games and I was like, yeah, he definitely belongs in this league. So yeah, guys like him and even what Marshawn said, Markel Fultz, I didn't
Yeah.
even think about that, but yeah, he's a free agent guy that was in the lottery as well. I know he had his issue dealing with injuries and whatnot, but I mean, I still feel like you got that young, you can definitely take a gamble on him. I don't feel like you have anything to lose. But yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure
I agree
there's
at this
pretty
point.
more names out there.
Yeah, so you have like these guys, and I think the three that have been mentioned so far are the three that are kind of a little bit more confusing, I guess you would say, because they are still fairly young. They're not over the age of 30, per
Mhm.
se. You look at Fultz, you look at Dennis Smith Jr., you look at Lonnie Walker. Is it the fourth? Lonnie
Yeah,
Walker the
Leonard
fourth.
Walker the fourth. Yeah,
Nonetheless, these guys have played well. They seem to have like a role in the NBA, if that makes sense. Like
yeah, for
Lonnie
sure.
Walker's a 3-and-D. He's an athletic guard. Dennis Smith Jr. is just your typical like point guard, gets to the rack. He's added a little bit of a better jump shot in there as well,
He could
but
defend
just
too.
kind of your prototypical, attacking combo guard in a sense. Um, and then you got Markel Fultz, who is just also that attacking combo guard. So I don't know. Those are three guys like at the beginning of free agency. As a Sixers fan, I looked at those guys and I said, hey, I would be cool with, bringing one of those guys in or two of those guys in, especially at a minimum contract. Sixers roll with Reggie Jackson Jr. and Kyle Lowry, right? So they rolled with a couple older guys. There
Yeah,
are
veteran
some
presence.
guys. Who was that?
Yeah, just that veteran presence on the team.
Yeah, exactly. We went with the veteran presence over kind of the potential, I guess you could say, in a sense. Some other guys that are out there, you got like you got the Doug McDermotts of the world, the Landry Shamits. Some of the more interesting ones, Jay Crowder. Um, Marcus Morris was a guy that the Sixers were looking at. Reggie Bullock, still
Okay,
a free agent.
so I got a question for you, man.
Yeah, what's up?
So like, okay, because there's two ways we can look at this. So if you were any of those guys, would you feel offended, right? If DeAndre Jordan is still in the league, but then again, people kind of view him and that Udonis has some type of role at this stage of his career. So if you like one of those guys, would you feel like offended? Like, dang man, this guy, he's signed to a team and I'm still out here trying to get a job. Like, you know, take
Yeah,
us in the picture
it's
there,
a
man.
funny question because it would be a little frustrating, right? I will say this just from experience with the three guys that we mentioned first, these guys specifically, um, the Lonnie Walkers, the Dennis Smith Juniors. We saw last offseason a guy like Kelly Oubre signed extremely late with the Philadelphia 76ers, was scouring the market, couldn't get more than a minimum as far as like the opportunity that he was looking to step into. So it could be as simple as like these three specific guys that we mentioned first, right? I think they could be just looking for the perfect opportunity on a winning like type of contender, or, a chance to showcase that they can be a part of a winning team. Maybe that's it. But it is quite weird, guys. That it seems like they've kind of found a niche in the NBA, a role for themselves, but now do they have to go play overseas? We saw Patrick Beverly take a contract from an Israel ball club, and he's heading over there. So it is interesting. Like, is there just so much talent youth wise that's coming out of college, coming overseas, coming from the G League, that these guys are just becoming expendable earlier in their careers? Like,
yeah, I
is
feel
that
what you're saying, man.
is that what's happening?
Like,
I don't know. I'm trying to understand it because I feel you.
yeah, it is because like you brought up Kelly Oubre and another guy is Christian Wood. Both of those guys signed pretty late into the offseason last year, so
Christian Wood's another one.
maybe this could be like another situation like that. Maybe they sign late because also to think about it, like they can get training camp invites as well and compete for a roster spot. So it's not technically over, but I know you would probably feel more comfortable to know where you're playing around this time opposed to like a few weeks or a month before the season's about to start. So
Yeah. No, I do agree with you. I do agree because like you got families, you got to get situated wherever you're going, and it's not easy to do that, in a 2-week span once the season's approaching. So, definitely feel you there. We'll see where these guys end up. We'll obviously talk about it as these signings happen. It feels like it's a little bit of a downtime in the NBA offseason. Obviously, the NFL is starting up right now, so. We'll weather the storm though. We'll get through it. We got plenty of content to dig into with the downtime, nonetheless. That being said, man, we got Martian with a ton of comments here about our top 10 centers. Man, it's got me eager to get into it with you. Do you have anything else for the audience out there before we get into our list of top 10 centers?
No, that was pretty much it. We covered everything.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's pretty dry right now, but we're gonna have fun with it nonetheless.
Yeah.
Do you want to start from 10 or do you want to start from 1?
Oh man, let's start at 10, man. Let's start at 10.
Make it fun. Make it fun.
Make it
I
fun.
feel
Make it fun,
I feel
man.
that. Okay, yeah, number 10. Wow, this is it's like I'm deciding last minute. Like, do I want to slide that?
This is me too.
From honorable mention
for the audience out there, man. Like, keep in mind this is going into next season. This is our prediction going into next season, man. So, hey, keep that in mind.
All right. Man. So my number 10, man, I'm going to go with Miles Turner at number 10. Okay. This one was tough for me. This one was tough for me with Miles Turner because I do think he's an underrated player in the league at this point. I think maybe a couple of years ago, it almost felt like teams didn't want a player like him on their team. Like, he was on the market. If you remember, he was on the trade block. There was teams like Portland, Sacramento looking at him, but just wouldn't pull the trigger on him. I really feel like he's built himself into if you want to call him a role player, a high-grade role player. But I think he is a little bit better than even a role player. He's a great defender and great floor spacer for Indiana down there. So will be interesting to see him with a full season next to Pascal Siakam, which maybe he ends up higher on this list next to a guy like that takes a little bit more attention. Maybe he's able to produce a little bit more efficiently. But went with Miles Turner at number 10, man.
Yeah, man. So for me, I'm going with Miles too, man. Like, it was a decision for me too, man. But I think overall it's a preference thing for me. Like, I'm a huge fan of his defense. Like, obviously one of the better shot blockers in his league today. And you mentioned it for all the right reasons, for all the other right reasons why he's made this list. And on top of that, man, like Miles he's also an underrated scorer. I feel like, in my opinion, like, you can throw the ball to him down low. He got a post fade, all that in his bag. So yeah, man, I want Miles at number 10. Like you said, the signing of Pascal Siakam, those two pairing in the front court for another season should definitely be interesting. So yeah, so Miles made the list for me, coming in at number 10, man.
So Miles for number 10 for you. So for number 9 for me is going to be, and this is one we discussed before the show started. I went with Karl Anthony Towns. Now, we talked about this. He is the tweener. We understand that. You could put him in a list of power forwards. You could put him in a list of centers. We went with center, but we'll see how it goes with them, right? They got Naz Reid. They got Rudy Gobert. He might be playing power forward going forward. Nonetheless, I did go with Cat at number 9. He's another player, man, where I feel like he's become underrated, but has he is he underrated or is he overrated? Like, where are you at with Karl Anthony Towns? I guess we'll find out if he's on your list, but that was the question I left thinking about Karl Anthony Towns. Is he underrated or is he overrated? I don't really know. But he comes in at number 9 for me nonetheless, man.
I think with Cat, there was like a middle thing for that, like, because one of my biggest thing with Cat is just he just settled for too many threes. Like, I know he called
Yeah.
himself the self-proclaimed greatest shooting big man of all time, but bro, that shouldn't stop you from going down low and being dumb. So yeah, that's one of my main reasons for Cat. But for me, coming in at number 9, man, I got Kristaps Porzingis, man. Like,
I like it.
his first season with the Celtics, he did not disappoint. He gave them like 20 points per game and like 7 rebounds, almost close to 2 blocks a game. And obviously, you can see the fit with that team is just like second to none. Like, the way he fit in with those guys is just, it's just a sight to see. Like, him being able to space the floor and then Tatum and Brown getting down here, getting to the rim, and have the ability to kick it out to a guy like him, and he'll make it. So yeah, for
Yeah.
me going into next season, I got Kristaps Porzingis coming in at number 9. A guy who, by the way, almost made the All-Star team this past season, and he had one hell of a game one in this past NBA Finals. I mean, his impact was definitely felt for sure coming in off the bench. So
Yeah.
yeah, I got KP coming in at number 9. I feel like he'll keep it up.
No, that is an interesting selection. He is a guy that I did have originally on my list. I ended up switching him out. I do have it written down because he was like my biggest honorable mention here. But when it comes to talent, honestly, Kristaps Porzingis might be like top 5 in this position group. Like, when it comes to like what he can do on the floor, he can post up, he can shoot the 3. He's a rim protector. He can defend, obviously, from that standpoint. I think he is a top 5-ish talent when it comes to the center position specifically. It's just injuries. It's just those type of health concerns, but you can say that about other players as well. So maybe I'm being a little harsh not having him on there, but so number 8 is where I am at right now. Number 8, I went with Chet Holmgren. Now, will he play center this year? That is the big question. Obviously, Isaiah Hartenstein heads over to OKC, so maybe Chet moves to that power forward spot. Just got to see what they're going to do with their starting lineup, but he's making money. I think Hartenstein's going to start, so we'll see nonetheless. Chet, the big thing with him, especially at the center position, which is why the power forward's more fit for him, would be just his lack of size, right? So just thinking of it from that standpoint is why he dipped down a little bit lower than some of these other guys, but he has the full plethora in his skill set, in his skill bag. He can shoot the 3. He's developed a mid-range. He's working on the post up. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to Paul George podcast P with Chet Holmgren on the pod. I listened to that earlier today. He's working on his post up game, so he's going to be more effective from there this upcoming season. Defensively, he's a menace. The length. So ultimately went with Chet. I think this is one, man. As I'm looking at my list now, I'm wondering if I got confused with him as a power forward here. That's what I'm wondering. Like, did I have him? I believe we talked about this last week. I'm just checking my list of power forward.
I don't think.
No, I kept him off of there.
Yeah,
I kept him off the list last week.
I don't think he made it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's still to see, like, will he be starting at the 5 or the 4? But I don't see how the Thunderpad got that much money to bring him off the bench. And I'm talking about Isaiah Hartenstein. So you would have to assume that he would have to start.
Yeah. So it's interesting because, like, Chet as a power forward next season, I don't know what he'd probably be in my top 6, top 7 power forward. So I don't know. Maybe it changes a little bit depending on the position. Nonetheless, I went with what he was last season going into this season. Maybe that was my fault there. But I did go with Chet at number 8 nonetheless, man.
Yeah, I respect it. So for me, man, coming in at number 8, I went with Alperen Sengun of the Houston Rockets.
I like it.
This is a guy who had one hell of a season. I'm sure he popped off. I mean, the way he popped off, I'm sure a lot of guys didn't expect it because I know I didn't. I knew he would take another leap, but to go out there and average 21 points per game in this league as a big man is quite impressive. He overall just took a
Yeah,
leap all across the charts, like from a playmaking standpoint, rebounding, you name it. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like the Rockets will definitely be better heading to next season. They end the season off pretty good. Jalen Green was starting to figure it out, and I'm sure that that duo, Jalen Green and Şengün, will be pretty nice for years to come. But yeah, I like Şengün game. He can shoot the ball. He can pass it. The way he passed it kind of reminds you of Jokic in a sense of ways. So
I like that comparison.
yeah,
Yeah,
and just overall, he's a guy. He's a dominant force down low as well. So yeah, for me coming in at number was that 8, I got Şengün of the Houston Rockets.
I love that. I love that because I have Sengun at number 7 myself. So I think we're close to the same page there. You mentioned it, the 21 points, 9 rebounds, the 5 assists is the big thing for me, the playmaking ability. It's the reason that's a big deal to me is especially because of who is on his team as well. Guys like Jalen Green, Fred Van Vliet, they can play make, but they're not the greatest playmakers in the world. So to have a guy from your center position that can play make for others, I think is a real benefit for them. And he's a guy that's only going to get better. Now, when you compare like a guy like him compared to a Chet Holmgren, for example, and why is Chet below Sengun? For me, it was just because you can argue Chet as a defensive menace, right, versus Sengun, who is kind of more, focused on the offensive end of things. But
Yeah,
I can't undermine like the ability to play make in the NBA. Like it's not something that every player has. That is, I don't want to call it a natural ability. Obviously, it's something you develop through playing basketball a lot, but it is kind of an intangible in my eyes. And it's not something that's easy to develop. So the playmaking ability alone for Sengun is kind of what gets him all the way up to number 7 on this list for me, man.
yeah. I feel that, and for me, coming in at number 7, man, I got Chet. You said it for all the right reasons. I
Right.
don't have to dive into too much detail, but I mean, going to next season, I think he's going to take another leap for sure. Put his name in the conversations of winning Defense Player of the Year awards, all defensive teams, you name it.
Yeah.
Potentially, may even be an All Star too, just depending on how good the Thunder,
Yeah.
success is next season, and depending on how good he becomes. So, yeah, for me, man, I got Chet Holmgren coming in at number 7.
I like it. I like it. We just got those guys kind of flip flop there, but generally in the same areas. So can't be mad at that. So number 6, man. This is where I got a little testy because this is
Man, here
where
we
Victor
go.
Wembanyama comes onto my list. And the reason this was a little hard to judge is because he very well might end up the best player over time on this list. Like when it's all said and done and Wemby's career is over, he might end up being the best player that was named on this list.
Yeah.
But is he going to be better than the 5 players I have ahead of him next season specifically? I don't know. I just couldn't go that far just yet. All 5 of the guys I have in front of him are just stat stuffing animals. They're at the top of the league when it comes to that. So I couldn't put him over the other 5 guys just yet, but he's just getting started, man. We've seen the talent. We've seen what he can do, the defensive talent, right? The length, obviously, but the ability, the shot making ability. I mean, that's unteachable at that size. It's just something that he was God given,
Yeah.
and he certainly knows how to put it on display. Um, you mentioned like the all-star team, and I thought this was interesting. We'll obviously find out who else is on the rest of our list as we go on here, but Wemby, Sengun, all in the Western Conference. There's going to be some other guys we mentioned here. Chet, also in the
Chet,
Western
yeah.
Conference. There's going to be some other guys at the top of this list, my top 5 in the Western Conference. So, like, there's going to be a big competition of who makes the All-Star team from the center position. Maybe Chet can slide in there as a power forward, but nonetheless, there's a lot of competition there. But who do you got at number 6, man?
Man, so for me coming in at number 6, you're right. This is where things definitely got interesting for sure. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I had to go with Sabonis, man. The Monte Sabonis of the Sacramento Kings, one of the better passing big man in the league, rebounding big man in the league. you name it. Had one hell of a season for the Sacramento Kings. This past season, obviously they didn't make the playoffs, but he had one hell of
Yeah.
a season. He had one heck of a stretch to be more exact. I think it was like consecutive double doubles or something like that. But yeah, I expect him to keep it up going to next season. I like what they've done. This past offseason, they had DeMar DeRozan alongside a passing big man like him. I feel like that'll work out pretty well, especially if he can get his 3-point jump shot back, because that kind of like went on the downhill over the past couple of years, percentage wise. He hasn't been shooting the ball pretty well. But I feel like he could probably get back to it next season. So yeah, man, I had to pay more respects to Sabonis. In the sense of ways, maybe kind of underrated, I say. Not all the way, but
Yeah.
in the sense of like he doesn't get talked about enough for the things that he do in his league. So
Yeah.
yeah, I got Sabonis ranking number 6 for me heading to next season.
It's interesting. It's an interesting pick. I have Sabonis at number 5, and that's what I meant. Where it just gets really like it gets really testy between like 6 and 5. The top 4, I can like definitively say I would take them over Wemby just for next season, right? But Sabonis was the arguable one for me. He was the one that was kind of like, do I value Wemby's defense and the other things that he does on the court, or do I value Sabonis, just that stat stuff in big man? He's going to get you the most double doubles in the NBA. He can play make. He's going to be the center of that Sacramento offense outside of De'Aaron Fox. It's interesting. He did lead the league in double doubles, like I said last year, with 77. I think the next guy behind him was Jokic with 68. So just grabbing rebounds like a monster. Played all 82 games, so just the marker of good health and consistency. Had to give him a little bit of credit there. The one question mark I have written down about Domantas Sabonis is he a winner? Is he able to be successful in the playoffs? That's where the concerns on the defensive end come into play with him,
especially
right?
with him being like the center. So
yeah, so I can see where you're coming from having Wemby ultimately ahead of him. I know you haven't announced Wemby yet, but I would hope that he's going to be there in your top 5 nonetheless if he hasn't been listed yet. So I understand it nonetheless. Who do you got at number 5, my man?
So for me, man, thanks for ruining it, but I got Victor Wembanyama coming in number 5, man. Hey, he did not disappoint. One hell of a rookie season. He put himself in the elite company. This brother was breaking a lot of records, man.
Yeah,
a lot of records. But with a guy with that potential, you just know the sky's the limit, and you know he's only going to get better heading into next season. I love the addition of Chris Paul for him. Like obviously, this is an older CP, but CP's still one of the best passers to ever play this game. And even in his league, he still can pass the hell out the ball. So you pair those two alongside each other, I feel like CP going to give Wemby an extra, 10 to 12 points, plus what he already does anyway. So Wemby's going to be making a lot of noise next season. Defense Player of the Year candidate, All-Star, All-NBA, all those things. He's going to be in those conversations for sure. He's just only going to get better.
Let me ask you this. We talked about Chet a little bit earlier. Would you be surprised if Chet had a better season than Wemby next year?
Would I be surprised? Yeah, I would be surprised. Yeah, I definitely would, because I feel like the expectation between San Antonio and the Thunder is different. So I feel like Wemby has more freedom in a sense to like shoot up a lot of shoot more shots than Chet, because the Thunder, they're trying to contend.
Jalen Williams,
they're trying to contend. So yeah, I would definitely be shocked if he had like a better season, like stats wise, in a way.
Yeah, man, you got me thinking hard here. I'm thinking about moving Wemby up to number 5 just because it's exactly the question that I wrote down about Sabonis, right? It was like, can he be impactful in the postseason? Is him being a defensive liability going to impact you in the postseason? Is that why Sacramento can't be successful in the postseason, can't make the postseason, first of all, but even when they've made the play-in tournament, haven't been able to win a game or two to get in through the play-in tournament? And I do just wonder, is it just that the Western Conference is so stacked? Maybe the talent's not good enough around him? Or is it that he puts up these numbers in the regular season? He's a great regular season guy. And when you get to the postseason, when things stiffens up a bit, when things become more focused on the defensive end, he tends to suffer. So it does make me tend to lean like, for example, put Wemby on the Sacramento Kings with De'Aaron Fox.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I am. Yeah, all right. Yeah, no more talking about it. I'm
How
switching
nasty would
those.
that be though, man? Like, sheesh.
Man, that would be so nasty. I mean, Chris Paul, you hit the nail on the head. I think Chris Paul, even at his age, his playmaking ability is going to be something different for Wemby that's going to help him improve from efficiency standpoint, from production standpoint.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I'm going with Wemby at number 5 as well, man. I'm moving Sabonis down to 6. You talked me into it.
Scotty
I also
Drown,
looked at
man.
the
Scotty
3.6 blocks per game. I'm just like, yeah, I'll take that on my team over Sabonis. I
like
really think I
this.
would, man.
Man, like if it's one thing
I
about
drowned
Wemby,
on that one.
this game, if it isn't one thing about Wemby though, like if all the other things didn't translate, like from an offensive standpoint, you just knew that the defense was going to translate, and he's
Yeah,
shown that. So yeah,
yeah.
shout out to him. So well, who you got coming in at number 4, man? Since you want to
Yes,
change up the
sir.
list, man.
So this is where I like the name that my man Marshawn put in the chat here earlier. Where let me find it here.
Man, where Marshawn at anyway, man?
Right. He left when we start doing the list. Now,
Yeah,
he's no
what a
longer
guy,
here
man. What a guy.
when we do the list. But I went with Bam Adebayo. You can call him Bam Tavius if you like. The guy that I thought was very impactful in the Olympics, very helpful, especially in that gold medal game. He did a lot of the dirty work. He got a lot of minutes there. Joel Embiid kind of faded out in the second half. AD even kind of took a little bit of a backseat there. Thought Bam Adebayo really showed his versatility. He's obviously an expert on the defensive end. I think it's even to the point now where he's underrated as a defender. He's a guy that should have several Defensive Player of the Year awards by now. Just sucks for him because you got guys like Chet, Wemby coming along. They're going to be in contention for it every single year going from here on out. So it is going to be hard for him to win that award at this point. But nonetheless, he's going to be there. He's still young. He still can get better on the offensive end. Underrated playmaker as well. I love his passing ability from the center position as well. Went with Bam Adebayo here, my man.
Yeah, for sure. I gotta show love to my guy Bam. That's why I got at number 4, Bam Monte. My second favorite player.
Bam Monte, I like that one.
Man. My second favorite player in the league, Bam, man. One of the better defenders in his league. Like the one thing that stands out, just his versatility to be able to defend 1 through 5 is just amazing to see. And throughout the years, bro, his offensive game has just gotten so much better. He's got a consistent mid-range shot. And as you can see in the Olympics, he started to shoot the 3-ball. Now, obviously, the FIFA like line, 3-point line is like kind of smaller than the NBA, but I love what I was seeing though. I feel like they can translate if he decides to like shoot more threes into next season. So that and then like you mentioned, man, it sucks that he may end his career without a Defense Player of the Year award from the simple of the fact like guys like Wemby, Chet, and it's a lot more young guys coming into this league, man. It's going to be tall and effective like those guys. So it sucks, but yeah, he one of the better defenders in the league. And as you mentioned, like his playmaking ability definitely don't get talked about enough. I mean, he's definitely, in my opinion, like a top 3 passing big man in this league for sure. He make all the right plays, winning plays. So yeah, man, that's what I got coming in number 4. My guy Bam, man.
Yeah, I like your point there. A top 3 passing big man in the league. Obviously, Nikola Jokic would be number 1. Sengun's up there.
Sabonis.
He's up there.
Yeah, I think I'd probably go Sabonis over Sengun for now. And then I'd go Bam.
Yeah. No, I feel that. Yeah, so we got Bam in the same spot. So with my updated rankings, 6 through 4, we are the same. So I moved Sabonis down there to 6 behind our guy Wemby here. Wemby at number 5, Bam at number 4. Number 3 is going to be the Brow AD for me. We know what Anthony Davis can do. You can argue once again from the center position specifically. You could argue that he is like the best prototypical center in the NBA when it just comes to rebounding, defending, but he can also score the rock. It's just that he does the other things at an accelerated clip. I think when you get into these last three guys specifically, these are all three guys in my eyes that can do a little bit of everything. They can be as good as the number one player on their team. So I did go with Anthony Davis here. We'll see as the years go on if he starts to show age at all. I know he's been banged up throughout his career, but every time he is healthy and available, this man just he's a world record. So I love AD's game. I love what he brings to the game. And once again, I think when you think of like a prototypical center, what you would typically ask of them, I think he might be one of the best in the league, if not the best from that standpoint. But the other two guys I have in front of him just do a little bit more a lot more offensively, I should say. And a better number one option, I guess I would say. Yeah, but he is a great player nonetheless.
Yeah, so quick question. Is Anthony Davis the best defender in the league?
I'm going back and forth with him and Bam Adebayo right now. Obviously, we know Rudy Gobert and his defensive player of the year. I'm not fucking with that. We haven't mentioned Rudy Gobert, by the way.
They need to change something about that, man, because that's ridiculous.
Yeah, they need to like resend some of them shits, but
it's crazy, man.
It's between AD and Bam, and I look at Bam kind of like his predecessor, or he's the guy that's coming, right? Like, if he's not better than him defensively, he will be better than him defensively. Pause.
Yeah. No diddy. No diddy.
Yeah, but I'll let him have that title for now. I'll let him have that title for now.
Like, obviously for me, like I would be biased towards Bam and say, Bam, but it's like, man,
defend more positions.
He definitely can, but AD, it's kind of hard for me just to pick against this man, because I've seen this man like this. Yeah, he's disrupt. Like, I've seen it firsthand in the playoff series. Like, this man has disrupted our whole offense. So like, I know how like elite and special this guy is on the defensive end, man. Like, he can really fuck up your whole offense. So I think I'll probably go with AD, man, with Bam in that regard.
Yeah,
just because of he does get more blocks and steals than Bam, but even though that don't necessarily just determines if you're a better defender or not. But
it depends what you're looking for, right? Like, if you're looking for like that versatility, if you're a team that switches a bunch, you probably go with Bam just because he can guard guards at times. But when you look at it from the perspective of like, what do you truly want your center to be able to do? Like, switching on to a guard isn't something I'm like looking to get my center to do, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? But it is a good skill that Bam has that ability. So it's an interesting combo. Maybe Bam maybe Bam can move past him this year. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but for me, coming in at number 3, man, I got AD. This is a guy. I mean, we all know AD about, one of the best two-way players in the league, if not the best two-way player in the league. He's just so good defensively that you can forget sometimes that he can give you like 27 a game. But yeah, going to next season, I got AD coming in at number 3. It's crazy that this guy hasn't won a Defense Player of the Year trophy yet. And, as he gets older, man, it's just
criminal.
Yeah, you just start to wonder, man. And, guys, and that's another reason why guys, not necessarily just a huge fan of Rudy Gobert too, because, you just kind of like gift the award to him. Because when you look at his stats, like the blocks, the steals, they not necessarily just eye popping. So I mean, like overall, like team defense, individual, like all that, I'm sure it plays a factor. But man, when you talk about a guy like AD and Bam for Rudy Gobert, it's criminal. It is like when it's all said and done, like Rudy Gobert going to have more defensive player trophies than Draymond, Bam, AD, Joel.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the list goes crazy. On. Right?
And who knows what happens with Chet and Wemby, as time goes on as well. But obviously they weren't in the league at the time of Rudy Gobert have it taken from them. But it is just interesting from that standpoint. Like, not even mentioning Rudy Gobert with this list, like he wasn't even in honorable mention for me, quite honestly. And to your point about the Defensive Player of the Year awards, like this man goes to the postseason and gets exposed to the point where he can't be on the court. Like, for him to win Defensive Player of the Year, but he can't be on the court because he's a defensive liability in the postseason, that just don't add up to me, man.
I mean, it was him versus the reigning MVP and Jokic.
Yeah.
And he just didn't stand a chance against that man. Like,
Yeah.
it was like bullying to a certain degree.
They had to go with
everybody. It was like everybody gets a turn. So.
No bullshit. No bullshit. You were not wrong there, bro. But the last two, this is where it's gonna get crazy. And
I already know how this gonna go.
You know where I'm at. You know where I'm at. I'm biased, bro. Like I can't do the list and take my bias out. It's not possible. I went with Jokic at number 2. I went with Embiid at number 1. And the reason I did this, man, and you can call me crazy. I get it. I probably will get called crazy. I'll get called dumb. It's fine. I went with Embiid, thinking about him when he's on the court. Obviously, his health is a concern. Maybe it's not fair the way I treated Kristaps before. But I'm looking at Embiid when he court, what he's able to do, and it's just pure domination. He's arguably the best player in the NBA when he is healthy. You look at the postseason series against the Knicks, man. He averaged 33 points, 10 rebounds a game, and this man was on one knee with one eyeball. That's not to take anything away from Jokic. I'm not trying to diss Jokic here at all. Once again, arguably the best player in the world when he's healthy. Like, same thing. Like, it's the same exact thing. Jokic, a much better playmaker than Embiid, much better vision. Embiid, a much better defender in a sense. So there's some give or take there. The one argument that I will hear for Jokic over Embiid is health. And I think that's fair. So I'm not going to argue with you about that. But obviously, with my bias, being a Sixers fan, I'm going with Embiid at number 1. So.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I already knew where this was going. But, I mean, it's like between those two, man, it's going to always come down to that. Like, who's number 1? Like, everybody going to always have their preference. And for me, I would have to lean more towards the Joker from the simple fact that he is a 3-time league MVP. You got to respect that. Finals MVP, NBA champion. The list goes on and on as far as accolades. And to me, that's what stands out the most over Joel. He do got a championship over him for now. So we'll see how that goes for Joel over the next couple of years with the addition that y'all guys added this past offseason. So yeah. But for me, coming in number 2, man, I got Joel Embiid. You said it for all the right reasons. I had down too much detail. Interesting to see how him and Paul George play alongside each other. I know how him and Maxey looks. That's a pretty nice duo with the addition of Paul George. I'm sure they're going to make some noise out there in the Eastern Conference for sure, as well as the other additions that they added, the role players to pair alongside the big 3 over there in Philadelphia. So, if Joel Embiid can stay healthy, man, we know what he's about. I mean, the man is a walking 33 points per game, 12 rebounds. His playmaking ability has definitely taken a leap over the past couple plus seasons. So, yeah, and people love to try to bring up the foul baiting stuff with Joel, but the way I look at it, man, you can't hate the player, hate the game. James Harden did the same thing. When he had those runs. James Harden was just, you just knew this brother was getting to the free throw line every time he came down court on the offensive end. So you can't just necessarily take points away from Joel Embiid because he does it. Like he studies the game and he sees that this is the way that the league is going. So why not, add this to your bag? Because, getting foul calls technically is a skill, if we're being honest here. Because most guys, they haven't perfected this craft of doing that. So, that's why I give Joel his credit to that. And for me, man, at number 1, I got Nikola Jokic. I mean, it's no brainer. We know what the Joker about. It's going to be an interesting season for them, man. They lost KCP. A huge loss. Their best defender on the team as far as on the wing goes. 3-and-D guy. They added Russ. I love that pickup for them. I just felt like it probably could have happened a few years ago because Russ is like getting older now. So we don't know what his production level is at right now. So but for me, I got the Joker coming in number 1. We know what he's about, man. So
no, I think all fair points. You talk about the accolades. Joker's got Embiid beat there. And I guess, looking at it from my perspective, I'm just hoping and praying that Embiid can finally stay healthy into the
Yeah, if he can
postseason. I
stay
don't even
healthy.
care if he plays the whole regular season. I just want to be fully healthy come the postseason. Like I said, 33 points, close to 11 rebounds, 5.7 assists in the postseason with one eye. 34 point, basically 35 points per game, 11 rebounds, 5 assists in the regular season, close to 2 blocks, 53, 38, 88 shooting. I mean, it is. It's crazy. I think, like I said, I knew coming into this list, there was no way I could take my bias out of it because I've watched this man score 70 points in a game. Like, I know it's regular season. I know these things like don't matter. It's just when you watch it from like a basketball fan perspective and get to watch these moments, it just kind of changes it changes your perspective. Simply put, I watched Joel more, to be fair, right? I don't watch Jokic as much as I watch Joel.
Yeah,
So I just have a little bit more fondness there for Joel. I think that's obvious, but I think you make valid points for Jokic. He's well decorated in this league. And I do think ultimately there's some other guys up there. I think when these guys are healthy, I think Giannis is probably in this convo. A couple other guys. I'm not going to sit here and list everybody, but these are arguably the two best players in the world, like let alone the NBA, let alone the center position. It'll be interesting to see where these guys fall on our top 20 lists of overall players, which we'll be getting into in the next episode. So I'm excited to get into that as well and see where not only these guys, but the rest of the position groups kind of fit amongst each other. I think that's where it's going to get really testy because 20 sounds like a lot of players, but when you're talking about a league filled with, over 50 guys that could probably be all-stars if they have the right production in a given season, it gets a little tough. There's gonna be some bigger differences in our lists than what we saw with these position group lists, I believe.
Yeah, so quick question on the Joker, man. How many big man has won like 3 league MVPs in his league, man? So that's impressive to be a big man to do that.
Off the
'Cause I,
top of my head,
I
I
can't thinking
mean,
about it. Like I know Shaq won maybe like
maybe Shaq, but I don't think he won 3.
maybe 2. He may have won 2 MVPs, maybe. I don't know. But then you got to go back to like the Wilt Chamberlains of the world, Bill Russells, Kareem, all those guys.
Like Olajuwon. Did Olajuwon ever win any MVPs? Who's the other guy? Oh, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's the other guy that could be up there. How many MVPs does Kareem have?
Let me look it up right quick.
6-time MVP. So Kareem, but that's great company nonetheless.
Wait, hold on. You said Kareem got what? 6?
He's a member. Yeah, so it says rookie. He's a rookie of the year, member of 6 NBA championship teams, a 6-time NBA MVP, 2-time NBA Finals MVP, 19-time All-Star, 2-time scoring champion.
Okay,
so
okay, number one. Kareem. I don't think. Yeah. Okay, so I'm looking at it now. So Kareem with 6, Bill Russell with 5, Wilt Chamberlain with 4, Jokic with 3.
Bill Russell at 5. That's crazy too.
Yeah, Moses Malone with 3, Joel Embiid with 1, Shaq with 1, David Robinson, Hakeem, all those guys.
Shaq with only 1.
Yeah, man.
That's interesting too.
Hakeem the Dream with only 1 as well, man. But that's wild. 6 MVP, like damn.
Yeah, like that's a topic for another day, of course. But why does Kareem not come up in like greatest player of all time?
Yeah, true. Because like when you think like when guys make their like greatest of all time list, Kareem never was at that 5 spot. It's always Shaq, Will, Bill Russell. It's never Kareem, man. Like,
but Kareem's unstoppable. That hook shot is nasty. It's ugly as hell, but it's nasty.
Yeah, it goes in though. It goes in.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
But speaking of that though, like I don't think nobody will ever reach Bill Russell with 11 rings, though, man. I just don't see that
Nah,
happening.
not in this day and age, bruh. The
It's
talent is too far spread. It is crazy. Bill Russell, man.
11 of
Bill
them.
Russell. It just makes you think because, like, I don't know. I'm not gonna sit here and like try to disrespect anybody. I didn't watch a ton of Bill Russell basketball games. I don't think that stuff is in color. But
Yeah.
it seemed like he was more defensively focused, right? Like he holds a lot of
Yeah, he
defensive
was. Yeah, for
accolades.
sure.
So I'm interested, like, guys like AD, what would they look like back in that day and age?
Man,
You know what I
especially with
mean? Like jumping
like
around, long arms, like
and then like with him being so versatile, man, like man.
spreading the floor, like spacing the floor out. Yeah. It's interesting the way the game has changed. Because you talked about Joel's free throws earlier, and it's like, well, damn, we wish Shaq could make his damn free throws, don't we? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's interesting how things have changed, man.
Yeah, like with the free throw thing, man. That's why I was so disappointed in Ben Simmons, man. Like he was such this dominant force in the paint, and you really gonna let this free throws thing get to you, bro. Like look at Shaq,
Yeah,
man. Like
yeah,
Shaq was not the greatest free throw shooter, but that didn't stop him from being so dominant in the paint, man. So
exactly.
why not have that mindset of like, okay, but did you
That
did you,
was
did you have like any honorable mentions though on your list?
Yeah, I do. I just wanted to comment on that Ben Simmons thing. The hack of Ben in the postseason was probably like one of the craziest things I've ever seen in like modern era basketball, honestly. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
it
Ben
was.
Simmons is like a wild case of like outlandish events while he was in Philly.
I think it ultimately broke him though, man. I'm not gonna lie.
I do
I think
too. Yeah.
it
I
broke
don't
him.
think it was necessarily even Philly. I think it played a part. I think Philly fans played a part in it, just the pressure that the fan base can put on the team and the players. But I think overall it was the speculation, right? Like the attention that it got of him not being able to hit a free throw, let alone like a shot in open court. And then
Hmm.
you see the pass out of the dunk with Trey Young coming up to contest him, and he passes it to Matisse Thybulle.
Yeah,
That's
he
like the
getting it.
symbol of his career right now. That
Yeah,
play,
yeah,
which is
that
crazy.
was well. I was shocked he passed it, man. 'Cause he was very mad at Matisse, by the way. The way he had looked at him was
I
crazy,
was
man.
disgusted. Yeah, Ben Simmons, man, made me sick because I was a Ben Simmons defender
Yeah, I
up
know. Trust
until
me.
that
Yeah,
postseason,
he told
man.
me about
So
this, man. So yeah, man.
there was a
It's
time where
which
where I thought Ben was the future of the Sixers and not Embiid, bro. That I'm an idiot.
Yeah,
That's
like
all.
which is why like I don't be buying like when guys be hitting jump shots and like summer runs and all that. Like why doesn't it translate to the NBA, bro? Like you work on this all
Yeah,
summer long, but you can't make a jumper in the NBA. It's crazy, man.
a mental midget is what they call him, man. Just it's not a physical thing, right? Like it's not his shot mechanics per se, because like you said, he hits them in workouts. It's all in his head, and he hasn't been able to get back from it. Even in Brooklyn, getting away from Philly, he hasn't been able to get
Yeah, I
out of that
mean
slump.
the past 3 4 years is just I don't know, man. He's been either injured or you just haven't heard anything about him. I don't know.
I feel like this is maybe his last chance. I don't know what his contract looks like, but this has got to be his last chance this season at making something of his
Yeah,
career. But
he gotta do it, man. He gotta come on with it.
you mentioned honorable mentions. I do have a few written down here. Um, I mentioned Kristaps Porzingis earlier. He's a guy that kind of flopped on and off of my list here. Super talented player, but the injury history, obviously. But aside from Kristaps, Vucevic from Chicago is a guy that I thought about heavily. He's a very talented player, but he does fall into that category of is he a winning type of player? So that's kind of where I ended with Vucevic. Um, Allen from Cleveland,
The
not
trash.
really. It wasn't really like gonna make my top 10, but I do want to show him some respect. He is in the
Yes.
conversation of best centers when it comes specifically to the defensive end as well. But
Yeah.
he plays the prototypical center role pretty well. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
I also listed is it Jalen Duran?
Yeah, Jalen Darren, yeah.
Jalen Duran, yeah, from Detroit. He's a very talented kid as well. Not a guy that I considered putting in the top 10, but a guy that maybe shows out for Detroit next year. Maybe he could get into it. He gets a lot of double doubles. He rebounds really well, but not just yet. It's funny, man. Naz Reid came to my mind before Rudy Gobert did, just to put that out there.
Wow.
Sixth man of the year, former sixth man of the year, Naz Reid, is who came to my mind
Rudy.
before three-time defensive player of the year, Rudy Gobert. So yeah, put that into perspective. Derek Lively down there in Dallas is another guy, defensive menace. Offensively, not good enough to obviously touch this list, but he's another guy. If he can improve, develop, maybe in 2 years he could reach this list. So I wrote down a few guys just to mention. Yeah, they've shown signs, maybe not there yet. Walker Kessler, another guy I like to put in that group, but not necessarily that they were going or even close to making this list. I guess I wouldn't go that far. What about you? Did you have anybody?
Yeah, I had a few guys. I mean, you pretty much said everybody, so there's no need. But I kind of noticed, man, you didn't mention this one guy, and then I'm curious to see where you at with him, and that's DeAndre Ayton, because you didn't bring him up. So I will say this though, I don't think that he's like top 10 worthy. I will say that maybe top 20. You could say that. But top 10, I don't know, but you listed Allen, D Live. Cat didn't make my list, so I put Cat out there. And you could say for a lot of different reasons. I mean, this guy had lost me a lot of money. But I'm not gonna hold no grudges against him. But yeah, but you didn't have Aiden, so what's up with that, man?
Yeah, Ayton was interesting, right? And I'm trying to look up his numbers right now just to see where he's at. So 16 points per game, 57% from the field. 11 rebounds per game up there in Portland.
The number one pick.
This 1.8 is that blocks? No.
The number one pick.
Yeah, I don't know. Just couldn't get on my list here, man. I don't know. Maybe I'm sleeping on him up there in Portland, over there in the West Coast, but did not like what I saw in Phoenix fitting around guys like Devin Booker, such. I thought he was kind of a detractor for Phoenix, so maybe that's what left the bad taste in my mouth with DeAndre Ayton, but we'll see. I would definitely say top 20 for sure. He's average a double-double. Let me put it in perspective. I would put him over guys like definitely Rudy Gobert. I would put him over guys like Derek Lively for sure. So he's right there. I would say he should be in that honorable mention list.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. One day, man, we're gonna have to talk about that draft class thing because we didn't necessarily just talk about it. Because
that's fair, yeah.
Because in my opinion, bro, that class is pretty deep, bro. Like, I'm not saying they're the best, but I think they're definitely the deepest, bro. Like, they got so many gems in that class, man. So, yeah.
We'll have to go through draft class. We'll have a little bit of time here before the NBA season starts, so we'll have a little bit of downtime. We can get into some kind of off the wall topics. Maybe talk about best draft classes and such. I'm just looking through the list here. Like Wendell Carter Jr., he's all right. Hartenstein was a guy like. I didn't consider him top 10, but he did impress me in the postseason, especially against the Sixers. But, we'll see how he performs with OKC.
I think I say Zach Edey. I'm interested to see.
What does he look like year one?
Yeah, he should be a good fit with them, though.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I think there's a lot of untapped potential in a lot of these players that we've mentioned. So it'll be interesting to see how they develop over this summer and come into the new NBA season. Who's going to be on that All-Star team? You mentioned that's what I wanted to get back to actually before we get out of here. But you got Nikola Jokic in the Western Conference. You got Anthony Davis up there in the Western Conference. Victor Wembanyama, Domantas Sabonis. You got Chet Holmgren. You got Sengun. And I believe that is it for my list. And then obviously you got the guys like Gobert, Nas Reed, so on and so
Yeah,
forth. I don't think they're going to contend for the All-Star team. But
that's six bigs. So the thing about front court is that accounts for like centers,
and
power
power
forwards, and small forwards.
and
So
small forwards.
yeah, and small forwards.
Damn.
So that was just six bigs you listed. If we're being realistic, Joker going to make it. AD going to make it. So I don't know, man. Maybe three centers, maybe four out of those six names. But
So Joker, AD, Wemby could make it. Wemby could make it. I think he could. But then you talk about front court players, though, man. You're talking about like LeBron,
KD,
Kawhi,
man, J-Dub. I'm sure he may make it this season.
Brandon Ingram. I mean, yeah, there's a lot in the West, man.
It gets scary. Oh, Zion.
Laurie.
Yeah, it gets scary out here in the Western Conference, man.
Yeah, so it's gonna be interesting to see who makes that All-Star team out there in the West from that position group specifically. But maybe we'll discuss that a little bit more in the next show when we discuss like our top 20 overall players. AJ Wood said Lively is great. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, he already proven that he's one of the better role players in his league. Just starting his role, he knows exactly what he have to do when he go out there. So,
can he develop offensively? That's the big question for him. Can he just get some type of go-to move offensively?
Dribble, handoff, 3-point shot.
Something. Yeah. Hit a couple threes in the postseason. It caught me off guard, but he did do it. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what this list turns into as the season goes on. Maybe that's what we can do at the end of the regular season, or maybe at the end of playoffs next year. Take a look at our list from this year and see how things finish.
Okay, we can definitely do that.
Go back and look at it from that perspective. But guys, I see there's 47 of you in here right now with us. Whether you're on X, whether you're on the YouTube channel, please, if you're not on the YouTube channel, head over to the YouTube channel, To The Galaxy Podcast. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure to comment over on the YouTube channel. We can't see your comments from X, so it's best to follow us on YouTube. Comment from there so you can get involved in the show. And it's what's going to best support us. That's where we're trying to grow our channel over on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe, hit the like button on the videos so we get more eyes on it and get more interaction. That's what we're doing this for. We want to get involved with you guys and see what you think and create some great NBA discussion here. But Slim, did you have anything else before we get out of here, my friend?
That was pretty much it, man. We wrapped it up. We talked about everything, man.
Yes, sir. So we'll have to figure out when our next show is going to be. My birthday is technically next Monday, but I'm spending Friday through Monday basically celebrating my birthday with my wife. So we'll figure it out. Maybe we get it in before the end of this week. We'll definitely keep you guys posted. If you follow us over on X, follow To The Galaxy Pod, you'll see when we're going live next. So we'll post it on there to keep you guys updated with the schedule. As we get closer to the NBA season, we'll get a more strict and consistent schedule going here. But right now, there's just a lot of downtime. We're getting it in where we can. So, Slim, it was a great chat with you here today, my friend. To everybody out there that commented, thank you so much. Be sure to go follow Slim on X at RTR30111. Follow the pod at To The Galaxy Pod on X. You can find me at Scotty Drown. That's going to be it for this episode of NBA To The Galaxy Pod. We will see you next time.
Yeah, peace.